Imagine standing at the absolute apex of the known world. You hold the power of life and death over millions. You can summon legions with a whisper. You can bankrupt nations with a signature. The world tells you that this is freedom. The world tells you that this is the summit of human existence. But looking down from that height, you realize the terrifying truth. You are not a god. You are a prisoner. Absolute power is not a gift. It is a psychological acid that dissolves the weak and corrupts the strong. Most men who reach the peak of the mountain do not enjoy the view. They are consumed by the vertigo. They become paranoid tyrants or hedonistic fools. They burn the world to keep themselves warm. But once in a millennium a man ascends the throne and refuses to burn. He discovers a secret mechanics of the mind that allows him to hold the weight of the heavens without breaking his spine. This is not a history lesson about a dead Roman emperor. This is a blueprint for the architecture of your own soul. If you can understand how Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire on the brink of collapse, while maintaining a mind of absolute stillness, then you possess the key to ruling your own reality. The throne is waiting, but first you must learn to endure the crown. To understand the magnitude of his discipline, we must first strip away the marble statues and look at the man. Marcus Aurelius was never meant to be a warrior. By nature he was a scholar. He was a frail boy who preferred the smell of old parchment to the stench of the barracks. He wanted a quiet life of philosophy and contemplation. Fate, however, has a cruel sense of humor. The Emperor Hadrian saw something in the boy. He saw a gravity that did not belong to a child. He nicknamed him Verissimus, the truthful one. Hadrian maneuvered the succession of the empire specifically to ensure that Marcus would one day wear the purple. It was a sentence of life imprisonment disguised as the ultimate promotion. When the moment finally came in the year 161, Marcus did not celebrate. History tells us he was terrified. He looked at the vast machinery of the Roman Empire, and he felt the crushing weight of obligation. He knew what the throne did to men. He had seen the madness of Caligula and the cruelty of Nero. He knew that the moment he put on the imperial robes, he would cease to be a man and become a target. Most modern leaders seek power to fill a void in their ego. Marcus accepted power as a Stoic duty. He understood the first rule of high-stakes geopolitics. The ruler is the servant of the state. If you rule for yourself, you are a parasite. If you rule for the structure, you are a king. This distinction is the foundation of enduring authority. His reign began not with a golden age, but with a deluge of catastrophe. The Tiber River flooded, destroying homes and drowning livestock. Famine stalked the streets of Rome. In the east, the Parthian Empire struck, invading Armenia and humiliating the Roman garrisons. A lesser man would have crumbled. A narcissist would have blamed his generals. Marcus simply went to work. He dispatched his company Emperor Lucius Verus to handle the war in the east. Verus was the shadow to Marcus's light. He was a hedonist. He was a man who enjoyed the perks of power without the burden of responsibility. While Verus partied in Antioch surrounded by actors and gambling dens, Marcus stayed in Rome. He worked through the nights. He managed the grain supply. He balanced the books. He held the center while the edges frayed. The legions eventually won in the east, but they brought back something far deadlier than a defeated army. They brought back the plague. The Antonine Plague was a microscopic apocalypse. It tore through the empire like a scythe. It killed perhaps 5 million people. In Rome, carts piled high with bodies rumbled over the cobblestones day and night. The stench of death was inescapable. The economy collapsed. The manpower of the legions evaporated. The people panicked. They looked to their emperor for salvation. This is the crucible of leadership. When the world is burning, everyone looks at the man at the top to see if he is sweating. If he shows fear, the system collapses. If he shows indifference, the people revolt. Marcus showed them something else. He showed them duty. He attended the funerals of the common citizens. He wept for the dead, but he did not despair for the living. He sold the imperial treasures. He auctioned off the golden goblets and the silken robes of the palace to pay for the war and the relief efforts. He stripped his own house bare to clothe the empire. This was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. He signaled to the people that he was suffering with them. He was not above the tragedy. He was in the trench beside them. If the plague was a fire, the north was a blizzard. As the empire weakened from disease, the Germanic tribes sensed blood in the water. The Marcomanni and the Quadi poured across the Danube. They did the unthinkable. They invaded Italy itself. They besieged the city of Aquileia. The barbarian horde was at the gates of civilization. Marcus could no longer delegate. He traded his toga for a general's cloak. He rode north into the freezing mud and the dark forests of Germania. He would spend the majority of his remaining years on this frontier. He was an old man by the standards of the time. His health was failing. He suffered from ulcers and insomnia. He was surrounded by rough soldiers who spoke a language of violence he had to learn to speak. It was here in the damp tents of the military camps that the miracle occurred. Amidst the screams of the dying and the constant threat of assassination, Marcus sat down to write. He did not write a memoir to explain his greatness. He did not write a history of his conquests. He wrote to himself. These writings, which we now know as meditations, were his survival mechanism. They were the psychological weapons he forged to kill the weakness in his own mind. He wrote things like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This was not abstract philosophy. This was a man trying not to lose his mind while the world ended around him. He was practicing a technique we might call cognitive reframing. When a general betrayed him, he did not see it as a personal insult. He saw it as the inevitable nature of treacherous men. When the weather turned against him, he did not curse the gods. He accepted it as the nature of the elements. He stripped every event of its emotional coding and looked at the raw data. This is the essence of Machiavellian Stoicism. Emotions are noise. Reason is signal. To rule the world, you must mute the noise. The ultimate test of his philosophy came from his closest circle. Avidius Cassius was his best general. He was the man Marcus trusted to hold the east while he fought in the north. But ambition is a poison that acts quickly. Rumors reached the east that Marcus was dying. Cassius saw his chance. He declared himself emperor. This was the nightmare scenario: civil war. The legions turning on each other while the barbarians watched from the tree line. The Senate panicked. They declared Cassius a public enemy. They waited for Marcus to explode in rage. They expected a purge. They expected executions and terror. Marcus did the unexpected. He remained calm. He told his soldiers that he hoped to capture Cassius alive. He said he wanted to show the world how a Roman emperor forgives a friend. He framed the conflict not as a war of vengeance, but as a tragic misunderstanding. He deprived Cassius of the narrative of the righteous rebel. He made Cassius look like a treacherous opportunist without ever raising his voice. This is a lesson in power dynamics that few understand. Reactivity is weakness. If someone can provoke you, they control you. By refusing to be provoked, Marcus maintained the high ground. He signaled that his authority was so absolute that not even a usurpation could rattle his composure. In the end, Cassius was killed by his own officers. They saw that the old man in the north was immovable. They realized they had bet on the wrong horse. When they brought the severed head of Cassius to Marcus, he refused to look at it. He did not gloat. He did not celebrate. He ordered it buried. He burned Cassius's correspondence without reading it. He refused to know the names of the conspirators. He chose ignorance to prevent himself from having to execute half the Senate. He chose stability over vengeance. He prioritized the health of the state over the satisfaction of his ego. There is a tragedy inherent in the story of Marcus Aurelius. For all his wisdom and all his discipline, he could not conquer the one thing that matters most: biology. He had a son named Commodus. History often asks why a man so wise would leave the empire to a son so clearly unfit. Commodus was cruel. He was vain. He was interested only in gladiatorial games and his own pleasure. He was the antithesis of his father. Some say Marcus was blinded by paternal love. Others say he had no choice. To name another heir would have meant signing his son's death warrant. This is the dark reality of dynastic power. You can build a citadel of wisdom, but you cannot inherit it to your children. Wisdom must be earned. Commodus had never suffered. He had never been tested. He was born in the purple. He thought the empire existed to serve him. Marcus thought he existed to serve the empire. As Marcus lay dying in his tent in Vindobona, which is modern-day Vienna, he knew the storm that was coming. The doctors told him he had days to live. He covered his face to hide his pain. His last words to the guard were, "Go to the rising sun, for I am already setting." He did not cling to life. He had practiced for this moment for decades. He viewed death not as a tragedy, but as a natural process. Change is the only constant. To fear death is to fear nature itself. He died as he lived, with dignity, with control, with total acceptance of the inevitable. So what is the secret? How did he do it? How did he wake up every morning in a freezing camp surrounded by enemies and carry the weight of the world? He compartmentalized his existence. He understood that there is an inner citadel that no external force can breach. You can chain a man's leg, but you cannot chain his will. You can destroy a man's reputation, but you cannot destroy his character. Marcus Aurelius realized that the only true dominion is dominion over oneself. He viewed the annoyances of life, the betrayals, the failures, and the pain as training weights. They were not obstacles to his life. They were the raw material of his life. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the mantra of the elite operator. Most people crumble when their plans fail. The Stoic pivots. The Stoic uses the failure as fuel. If the road is blocked, you take the path. If the path is blocked, you climb the mountain. If the mountain is unclimbable, you sit and you meditate, and you find a way to turn your stillness into a weapon. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that stress is an interpretation. It is not an external object. It is a story we tell ourselves. I am overwhelmed is a story. I have many tasks and I will do them one by one is a fact. The gap between the story and the fact is where you find your peace. You do not rule Rome. You do not command legions on the Danube. But you rule a kingdom. You rule your career. You rule your finances. You rule your family. And most importantly, you rule your mind. The barbarians are still at the gate. They just look different now. The barbarian is the distraction of social media. The barbarian is the anxiety of the economic crash. The barbarian is the coworker who smiles to your face and stabs you in the back. The plague is the constant low-level panic of modern existence. The flood is the torrent of information designed to drown your focus. You have two choices. You can be Varus. You can distract yourself with pleasure. You can complain about the unfairness of the world. You can let the chaos dictate your emotional state. You can be a leaf in the wind. Or you can be Marcus. You can build the citadel. You can accept that chaos is the default state of the universe. You can accept that people will be ungrateful. You can accept that things will break. And you can choose to meet that chaos with absolute order. You can wake up early when the rest of the world is sleeping. You can do the work that no one else wants to do. You can treat your enemies with a cold, distant kindness that disarms them more than any sword. You can view every crisis as a test that you were born to pass. Marcus Aurelius was the last of the 5 good emperors. After him, the rot set in. The empire began its long, slow slide into the Dark Ages. His death marked the end of an era of reason. This tells us something terrifying about the nature of civilization. It is fragile. It rests on the shoulders of a few good men who are willing to bear the weight. When those men are gone, the darkness returns. You must ask yourself what role you play in your own timeline. Are you the rot, or are you the pillar? To rule the world without losing your soul requires a trade. You must trade the comfort of victimhood for the burden of agency. You must trade the easy pleasure of anger for the difficult discipline of understanding. You must stop looking for a savior and look in the mirror. The world does not care about your feelings. History does not remember your intentions. It remembers your actions. It remembers what you built while the rain was falling. Marcus Aurelius left us a map. It is stained with blood and mud, but the ink is still legible. It leads to the high ground. It leads to a place where you are untouchable. Not because you have no enemies, but because you have no fear. Stand up, put on the purple, and go to work.